What do beta readers, critiques, editing careers, and guns have in common? They're actually all in this episode. I know that was cheesy. That was really terrible. A terrible hook. But it is true. They are all going to be in today's episode. So if you've ever wondered how to get beta readers for your novel or how to get yourself ready for critiques, emotionally ready, mentally ready, all of the above, and how to start your own writing career, if you've wondered any of these things, then you absolutely have to listen to this episode because author and editor Caitlin Miller is going to be discussing all of these things in today's episode. You don't want to miss it. Hey friend, do you love the smell of books? Maybe you absolutely delight in the sound of a pen gliding across a page as you write. Hi, my name is Shira Rodriguez, and I am a Jesus follower, a writer, entrepreneur, and lover of all things boho and books. In this podcast, I want to take you on a journey of discovering yourself, discovering God and your passions, and how to make your life beautiful and so full that it overflows into the lives of others. And over here, we are not about compartmentalizing life. Oh no. Over here, we talk about holistically taking your life and presenting it as a place where others can be blessed just by knowing you. Are you excited? I am. So snag your favorite mug of tea or a pen and paper and let's jump in. Because you're listening to Her Reading Life podcast. Hey friends, welcome to Her Reading Life podcast. I am so delighted that you're here. If this is your first time listening to this podcast, welcome. I am so delighted to have you on here on this podcast where we discuss all things writing and reading. And honestly, I love to think of this as like a virtual coffee date where you can just feel like you're chatting with a mug of coffee or tea across the table with a friend and just talking all things writing and books. And I hope you come from listening to this podcast feeling inspired and encouraged and feeling the way that you would after seeing an old friend. So today I am so excited to share the second part of my chat with Caitlin Miller. This week there isn't really much to report on. It's been quite smooth sailing and a bit quiet. I mean, I've had quite a bit of work, but it's been a lot calmer than last week, which I'm very grateful for. And it has also given me time to work on so many different plans and everything for the launch of the anthology, as well as just refining my Instagram strategy, email list strategy, all of the above. And so I will also be releasing some new info regarding the anthology probably in next week's episode. So I'm really excited about that. But for today, I am so thrilled to have you guys listen to this episode. It is so good. I can't wait to hear your thoughts on this. So if you have ever struggled with beta reading and wondering whether your novel is ready for beta reading, whether you should get an editor first or have beta readers look at your draft first, or if you have ever thought, oh my goodness, I would love to have an editing career, or I would love to have like a side business of editing in addition to a writing career, this episode is for you. You absolutely need to listen to this, and I'm so excited for you to hear. So without further ado, let's jump into today's episode. I honestly was just so honored to be able to actually take a peek at was it the same one that you're editing
Mhm,
currently?
mhm, yes.
Yes, and it was so wonderful. Your writing is so beautiful. And as someone who is on the receiving end of beta reading, I would love to hear from your perspective as a writer. When do you think it's the right time to send your manuscript to beta readers? And should you seek feedback from beta readers before sending your novel to an editor or after sending it to an editor? How do you choose the right beta readers and where do you find them? So,
Yeah. So, for myself personally, I send my manuscript to beta readers before sending it to my editor. But other people actually like send it to their editor, then they get the feedback, and if they have specific like questions, like um, they want to get beta readers' feedback. My editor suggested this. Do you think it's necessary, or can we change it around slightly, like tweak it a little bit? So there is like, it just depends. Some people feel like they need multiple sets of eyes on the story before the editor sees it, just because they're like struggling to sometimes even finish the story. Like, hey, I'm like, I just hit a wall. Like, can you read what I have and just let me know if you have any ideas for like how to wrap the story up? Then I think it would be really
Mhm.
beneficial to send it before. Plus, if you're like me, I'm always nervous about my writing. And I'm like, I want it to be the best it can be before my editor sees it. So I'm gonna send it to other people first. Um, but yeah, it can honestly be either way. I guess it's just you can just decide based on your needs, like if you feel like you need an beta readers before the editor or after to get additional feedback. There is no right or wrong way. It's more just preference. Um, but as far as like getting beta readers, what I usually do, and what I've done for this book is, I'll just open a forum, like a Google forum, and let people fill it out. Anyone can apply to be a beta reader, but not everyone's going to be accepted. But just finding readers who love to read the genre that you're writing is really helpful because they have like experience reading that, so they have a lot of
Right.
you know knowledge to offer. So that's like what I did with my book, You and I Were Fiction, which I'm working on right now. I had some people who have like read historical fiction read it. I also, if you have friends who are editors who are willing to beta read your book for free, I would really highly recommend that, because two of my editor friends did that, and it was great to have like a professional set of eyes on it for no
Right.
charge, you know? So that was really beneficial. And yeah, sometimes just taking a chance on people. I had, I think, two or three people apply to be beta readers, and I hadn't interacted with them very much, so I didn't know like what they liked reading. But I've noticed that just like sometimes the people that you take a chance on deliver the most as far as like
Yeah.
feedback and everything else. So, and everyone that I chose for my beta readers, I was so happy because there were, people who I knew would give me great feedback. Not that I expected it from them, but like I knew they would deliver. And then people I wasn't certain about, they like brought suggestions or things to mind that I didn't even think about. And I was like, wow, I'm so glad, like, I just took a chance on these people. So yeah, those are the things that I like definitely try to implement and would like recommend for anyone seeking beta readers.
Yeah, exactly. And I love the beautiful group that you had. It was so great because like there was so many different like people with different strengths, which is the beautiful thing about beta readers
Yeah,
because your editor is going to help you a lot. But when you come to your beta reading stage, it's a group of people. Some of them are going to be more picky about like proofreading. Other people are going to be more picky about the lines. Some people are going to be really strong at just telling you about story arcs and your story and the plot. And I love that some of your beta readers wrote in different genres and some of them were like male. So that actually helped so much in like being able to give a different perspective, which I thought was so cool. I loved that so much. And seeing everybody's comments was so great to see everyone kind of like working together on this story and offering so many different perspectives to be able to like just help you in your novel in such a beautiful way, offering so many different perspectives.
yeah, it was really encouraging. I felt like I had the best group of beta readers. Like they helped me so much with like, just overall feedback for the story, ways to improve, pointing out some weaknesses or ways I can develop the story further. But they were also like the best hype group. I felt like the best writers, like reading all their comments. Everyone was so kind. Um, oh, and I almost forgot, but something you said triggered the memory that I was going to mention this about beta readers. But
Yeah.
if you are a female writer writing up like from a male's perspective, or if you're a male writer, writing from a female's perspective, get that get like a guy or a girl to read that perspective, because I did that. And because one of my characters, who's also like a main character, has his own POV, and I was like, well, coming from a female perspective, I feel like even though I'm trying my best to like accurately describe how a guy would respond in this situation, or like how he would talk or interact, I'm not going to do it perfectly because I'm not a man. So I had one of my friends read it, and he just, even in the first chapter, he was like, I really think you did this well, but as a guy, I would have responded a little bit more like this. And I was like, that is so helpful. So just, if you're writing about a guy, have a guy read it. If you're writing about a girl, have a girl read it because it's really beneficial to accurately represent guys and girls, POVs and stories.
Yeah, absolutely. I've had my dad reading my manuscript as I'm writing it. I have my dad read parts of it so that way he can kind of I'm like, "Okay, is it working? If it's not working, okay, back to the writing board." Um, drawing board. Drawing board? I don't know. Anyway,
Either one.
and exactly. It was sometimes both.
Yeah.
And so I remember recently he was telling me he was reading a scene where my main character is holding a musket, and apparently she's holding a musket to this guy's to his throat. It's like an Adam's apple, and my dad was like, he read this and he's like, this whole scene was great except for one thing. He's like, you could push away the gun by just it's so easy to push away the gun, it's supposed to be far, and me thinking it's because 'cause I've never handled a gun, I'm thinking it's so much more dangerous if the gun is close to you, and my dad's like, "No, no, no, it's way more dangerous if it's far away because he can literally push it off with his fingers from his
Mm.
throat," and I'm like, "I didn't know that, thank you so much," and he's like, "Yeah, no problem." I mean, for him, obviously, it's obvious, because he knows more about these kinds of things, but
Right.
I would never have known if I hadn't had my dad reading, my novel and just having this kind of knowledge that I just simply didn't know, and that's what beta readers can do for you. They can literally spot out those little details that you didn't even know about sometimes, and they
Yeah.
really help you with your blind spots.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's also true.
Exactly, yeah. So, when you get your feedback, either from your beta readers or from your editor, I know a lot of people are a little bit afraid of putting themselves out there just because it can be so emotionally tough to
Yep.
receive that criticism because even it'll be lighter with beta readers because typically they will be really encouraging and really sweet. But
Yep.
again, an editor's job is to fix the problems in your manuscript, and that can be emotionally hard. How do you prepare yourself emotionally for receiving feedback from an editor on your manuscript?
Yeah, I will say you have to develop tough skin because otherwise you will be really discouraged if someone is like you're paying an editor to find what's wrong with your story and then but when you sit down and get the feedback you're like there's nothing right about it. It's all wrong. Like why am I even writing? Like am I supposed to be writing? I definitely had some moments like that with my books, but um, I've just anytime now that I get feedback, I before I even look at it, I just remind myself, this person is here to help me, not to upset me. Like they're doing their job, and I would rather them point it out in a way that is worded like with constructive criticism that is not worded like meanly or just like full on rudely because people will do that in reviews. They will be rude. But an editor, of course, being professional is not going to be like, oh, this story is garbage. Like, there's nothing right about it. They'll be like, okay, so I noticed some weaknesses. Also, these strengths of the story, which really stood out to me. Here's some weaknesses, suggestions on how to, rework it. Like, it's all like constructive criticism. So I think just we have to remind ourselves they're not attacking us, our writing or us personally. They're pointing out the flaws so we can fix them. So readers who will write reviews will not have like the opportunity as much to just, you know, be kind of vicious. So that has
Exactly.
definitely helped me a lot handle it better. So
Absolutely. And it's true. If you don't fix the things that you don't fix in the editing stage, eventually they might be pain points in your
hmm
once it's published, and your reviewers are not going to be as nice about it as your editors. And they
yeah,
are there to strengthen you, to help you. And yes, it's going to cause some growing pains, but it will strengthen you both as a writer, but also as a person, I think. You
Yeah.
just become a person who's more resilient and able to persevere, even though you might have to change a couple things or remove maybe sometimes certain characters that just didn't really serve their purpose or things like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, absolutely. And in the moment, it might feel like really hard and discouraging just to have to work through edits and realize, wow, I thought my story was in great shape, but turns out it's not. Like, it is so hard in the moment as you're working through that.
Of
But
course.
on the other side of it, like, I've never looked back and thought, wow, like, that was not worth it, or, like, those changes were just, like, I don't know, it wasn't worth all the work that I put into, like, rewriting and stuff. I look back and I go, "Oh my goodness, I'm so glad that they told me about that because now look at my story." There's such a, notable difference between the draft I
Mhm.
sent them and the draft I, completed after getting, edits back from them. So, it's always worth it in the end. It's hard in the middle of it, but it is always worth it in the end.
Exactly. And sometimes as readers, we don't see all the drafts that came before in the books that we love. But I bet you they had a lot of drafts. They had a lot of messy parts that we just didn't get to see because we see the finished product.
Yeah.
But it's that refining process that has made the books that we read, that we love today, into what they are.
Yes, absolutely.
Have you ever had this thing happen where you read through a book but felt like you weren't getting anything out of it? You weren't reading because you were intrigued, enveloped, or even inspired by the story. You simply wanted to add another book to your Goodreads read list. Actually, I just had that happen this week with a book that I was reading and I had to drop it. I had to DNF it. It was simply not filling me up or making me see the world in a new and inspiring light. However, if you enjoyed listening to Caitlin in today's episode and are in this sore spot too, you're in luck because today I have a wonderful new book recommendation for your TBR. I know, it's probably toppling over by now, but just one more book won't hurt, okay? If you love epistolary novels, World War II settings, themes of love, friendship, brotherhood, and sacrifice explored through letters and diary entries, this book, Our Yellow Taped Letters, is for you. Just days away from Germany's surrender, Lucy Skies never expects to receive the same telegram that thousands of families across the world have since the start of World War II. A notice of her brother's death in the service of his country. While reeling from the shock of losing her best friend, Lucy receives a letter from someone who knew her brother and can tell her two things she desperately wants to know: what her brother's life was like in the army, and who is responsible for his death. Jeremiah Sparrow wakes up in an army hospital, unable to remember what put him there, why he can't hear anything, or who he lost. When memories resurface of a plane crash, a parachute, and a friend, Jeremiah harbors deep guilt and secrets. Jeremiah sends a letter of his own to Lucy, and his words open a door that may cost him more than he realizes. Everyone has secrets to unearth and stories to tell. War, loss, and letters. They are a lot like yellow tape. Once you cross that line, there's no going back. And sometimes what you find on the other side looks nothing like you imagined it to. Our Yellow Tape Letters is available now on paperback and Kindle on Amazon.com, so hurry over and snag your own copy before the end of this episode. Hey there, listeners. Before we dive back into today's episode, I want to take a quick moment to talk about something really important. Reviews are the lifeblood of any podcast. They not only let us know what you're loving about the show, but also help others discover the beauty of living, giving, and repeating. So if you're enjoying the content we're putting out, here's a small favor I'd love to ask. Could you take just a minute or two to leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform? Whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any other platform you listen on, your reviews make a world of difference. By leaving a review, you're not just sharing your thoughts with us. But you're also helping us climb the charts and reach more listeners who might benefit from our discussions. Plus, it's a wonderful way to show your support for the content you love. So, friends, if you're finding value, inspiration, or even just a good laugh in any of these episodes, please consider dropping a review. It only takes a moment, but it means the world to us. And hey, if you want to go the extra mile, share the podcast with your friends, family, or anyone you think would benefit from these conversations. Together, we can create a community of listeners who are engaged, inspired, and ready to take on the world. All right, that's enough from me. Let's get back to the show. Thanks for being the wonderful, lovely, incredible listeners you are. And as always, enjoy the episode. And now, switching a little bit from writing and prepping your novel to maybe you're someone that loves editing, that loves just reading people's stories and refining them and making them better. Caitlin, I would love to hear your thoughts on how to start an editing business. Are there things that you need before you start? How do you build a portfolio and gain experience as an editor? Like, especially if you're just starting out. I bet these are like questions that people ask you all the time. But what would be your advice on these things?
Yeah, I've had a few people actually reach out to me and they're wanting to start their editing business. So like, hey, any tips you can give me would be great. Like, how do you get clients? Like, how much do you charge? All this different kind of stuff. So yeah, speaking from like, experience starting from ground zero and then like just deciding to jump into being an editor and starting my business, definitely something that I feel like you need to have before you start an editing business is like connections, especially on like the Bookstagram, writers community on Instagram. The more people that know you and have a personal connection with you, the more likely they will be to come to you when they need an editor. If I didn't have connections with people, I don't think I would have had any clients because, like, who would take a chance on this random girl who's, made it very clear she's just starting out as an editor. So, she's going to charge less than the typical rates because she doesn't, she's building her portfolio, like, um, all that kind of stuff. So, but because people knew me, they'll come to me and be like, hey, like, I know you as a person. Like, I know you're really hardworking and I've seen your writing on like your blog posts or, in your books. So I know that, like, you are like talented in that area, even though it's not like an area you've worked in like professionally yet.
Mhm.
So they will take a chance on you. So definitely like before it even comes to the business side of things, like form connections with people, reach out to people and just be engaged in the community. Um, and as far as like building a portfolio and gaining experience, something that I recommend to like editors who maybe haven't had like editing experience yet, so they're kind of just jumping headfirst into it is um, I would recommend for the first few clients possibly charging lower rates than like what you plan to charge later on. That is what I did, and it really helped me a lot because I would just tell people, hey, like I'm just starting out, so I'm charging lower rates. Let me know if you would like to work together. And because of that, people, clients came my way. And then once I had, a few client testimonials or like they allowed me to put like the book cover and showed up my portfolio, then I kind of had more credibility and people go, oh, I recognize those books or, oh, yeah. And so from there, I started, charging a bit more. Um, so yeah, just initially like maybe charge lower rates just to get people in the door because word of mouth is your best marketing tool. So if people are like, I worked there, had a great experience, they'll come to you, they'll tell your friends, So if you can just get a few people in the door at a lower rate, like I think it would really pay off in the end. It has for me, so.
Yeah, I love and remember seeing all the beautiful reviews that people have. Like there's just a carousel of them of just people who are delighted with your work. And it's so sweet to see like all the book covers and all the books that you've been able to edit and how blessed they've been by your editing because truly it is a gift, I think, that to be able to edit and to be able to refine people's stories. I think that even though that word of mouth has been like the biggest thing, and I love that.
Yeah, it's definitely like your cheapest and like best
Yeah.
marketing tool. Like,
Exactly. Yeah, and I've heard so many people that, like, I would find you because they would either, like, repost either a story or something like that, or they would say, "Oh, thank you so much, Caitlin Miller. I just released my new book," and they'd be like, "I'm so grateful to my amazing editor," or things like that, and it's just amazing because it literally makes you want to be like, "Oh, I needed an editor. Oh, Caitlin." Like, it makes you immediately think of
yeah.
so yeah, I would love to hear about a moment like in your own writing or editing journey that you hope will resonate with aspiring writers or editors. A moment that maybe helped you to just push forward even though it was kind of hard or something like that. Just something that will inspire aspiring writers and aspiring editors.
Yeah, the thing that comes to mind is like the story behind starting my editing business. I had planned to start after I graduated university, which just happened in December. So,
Congrats.
but thank you. But actually started my editing business in June of 2022, which was way sooner than I was planning on it. But I just remember being on Instagram, and a friend of mine was trying to find an editor, but if all the editors she was like interested in were so expensive, way out of her price range. And I just felt kind of bad for her because it was like her debut novel. And as an indie author myself, I know it's hard to find someone who's affordable. And I just had this like clear as day thought pop into my head, and it was ask Faith, which was the writer, if she wants you to be her editor. And I was like, that was random. Like, I'm not an editor, so I think I'm just feeling like, bad for her and like I want to help her out. But every single day for a week straight, I kept hearing that ask her, ask her, ask her, and I couldn't ignore it. I tried to because I thought, there's no way. Like, I'm not ready to start my business. Like, this is not when I expected it. This is not my timing for it. Um, but I just felt like that prompting so strongly, and I was like, okay, if I can't ignore this, that means it's from God, and I shouldn't ignore it. So I reached out
Yeah.
to that friend, and she was on the cusp of giving up on her book, just like shelving the project because she couldn't find an editor. And then she opened Instagram and saw my message, and she was like, I would have really loved to have you be my editor. Um, so I would just all that to say, just for writers and, aspiring editors, like it's not about your timing, like when you think is the ideal time for you to publish that book or start your editing career. Because I, for some reason, thought it was up to me and my timing, but it's about like, you know, when God knows us best. Like I thought, oh, I'm not gonna be able to keep up. I'm in school, I have like some I have chronic health struggles. Like I'm not gonna be able to divide my time and attention and energy, to editing and school and family stuff and, all that other stuff. But when God calls you to do something, he's like faithful to allow you to actually do it. Like he's not just going to say, try to, do this and then leave you on your own, you know. So just like trust his timing, even if it's sooner than you want it to be or later than you hope it will be. Like his timing is best. So yeah, that applies, to your writing. If you want to be an editor, like it applies to honestly everything in life. But yeah, just really trust his timing because his timing is always best.
Amen. Oh my goodness, that's so beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. That
Yeah.
is so beautiful. And sometimes we like separate God from the writing process, but it is so essential to be in tune with those promptings that God gives us. Even for like stories like the memories we painted, like you had that idea, that clear idea that just came into your mind and it just prompted you to write. And again, to go into the editing business, and you didn't even think, I bet, at the beginning, you were like it wasn't like, "I'm going to go into the editing business," it's just ask somebody if they would like me to be their editor. I love that. It's so beautiful and so precious. Thank you so much for sharing that story.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I would love to hear, are there any future writing projects or endeavors that you're currently working on and planning? I know you mentioned one in particular that you've been working on for a little while. Can you tell
Yeah.
us a little more about it?
Yeah, so I am working on I I realized I hadn't mentioned the title, but I've announced it on Instagram, so I can say it. Like,
Yeah.
my third my third book, which is called You and I Were Fiction. It's kind of like a historical Southern Gothic book, and I'm like really happy with it. It's different, so different from my other two books, but again, I just had to take that leap of faith when God was like, put that story in my
Yes.
heart. I'm like, oh, I don't know how people will receive it. Like, I don't even know if I'm qualified to write it, but again, like, if you're obedient, He will, allow you to, accomplish what He's calling you to do. But so I'm working on that, and then as my book has been with, various editors, I have been working on a fourth book, which I have like not talked about really at all, like on social media, only like, close friends and family know, but I'm really excited about it. I think I'm at like 7,500 words, so it's not like halfway done or anything, but it's in the beginning stages, but I'm really happy with it so far. So I can't wait to like work on it soon.
That is so exciting. Oh my goodness, I can't wait. And yes, that title is so gorgeous, by the way. I just think it's so sweet. Oh,
Thank
it's so
you.
perfect.
Thank you. I'm really happy with it too, so I'm glad other people are.
I love it so, so much. My goodness. Thank you so, so much, Caitlin. And before we close out, I would love to ask you the final questions that we ask every guest that comes onto the podcast. And honestly, thank you so, so much for just sharing so much of this your beautiful story and just your heart. Because I truly think that you have like just a heart for editing. It's more than just something you do. It's a passion that you have for just helping other people bring their stories into the world, which I love. And I would love to ask you to close out the episode, the last three questions that I ask everybody. So, are you ready? Awesome. So, something that I love to ask people who come onto the podcast is how do you live? So, what are some activities that just make you feel alive and glad to be alive? So, things that just fill you up.
Yeah. I know one thing that immediately came to mind was I love to just go to a coffee shop and either work on writing or, just journal. Like it's just good to sometimes, get out of the house and be in a different environment and get a great cup of coffee, and just do things that like, recharge you and fill you back up, whether that's writing or just reading or journaling or, just being at a coffee shop with a friend. I love to do that. And um, I also just love to be outside sometimes just, to feel the sun on my face and, hear the birds chirping. It's just like so peaceful. And it's like something I definitely like want to do more as it gets warmer because it's not been like ideal weather to be outside right now.
I know. Exactly. Yes. But it is so refreshing to be like outside and just sometimes I have like this lake by my house and I just walk by it and just seeing the ripples on the water is so peaceful and calming and
Yeah.
seeing like the birds on over it and everything and the wind against my face is just so life-giving. I can't even tell you what it is, but it is just so
Yeah.
life-giving. And just again, yeah, just letting the sun hit your skin, especially when we're writing so long, where we're just like hitting those keys and facing the screen for so long, it can be so refreshing to just walk outside and it just I think it sets my mind at least like in
Yeah.
the right place again because sometimes our problems and our stories can get so big and so in our face that it could just feel so great to just detach ourselves and remember that there is a real, wonderful natural world outside.
Beyond our fictional worlds, like, yes.
Exactly, yes, and my goodness, I love coffee shops. Actually, ironically, I would go to the coffee shop whenever I would be beta reading, um, You and I Were Fiction,
Oh,
so
yay.
so
That's so
I
fun.
always have the best memories of just beta reading and being with my coffee, and sometimes it was raining outside, which was just the best,
Yeah.
so
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I absolutely agree, I love that. And I'd love to hear from you. What are some of your favorite ways to give? So, ways that you like to bless others and fill others up. Some people say like to write notes. Some people like to create like or plan regular coffee dates with friends or give random gifts. What are some of your favorite ways to give to people?
Yeah, I love this question because as I was thinking about it, the first thing that came to mind is sending out handwritten letters to like family or friends just to surprise them. Um, like not for a special occasion, not for a birthday, nothing like that. Just hey, I was thinking about you, wanted to write you a note. Those are like some my favorite things to receive in the mail, just because it's so much easier to send a text message, saying the exact same things you would say in a letter or an email, or doing it over a phone call. But just, I don't know. I feel like for me at least, it means so much just to, when you're checking the mailbox expecting bills or whatever, just to find
Yeah.
something and be like, wow, someone thought of me and took the time to actually write this out, and so I love to do that sometimes just to surprise my friends, whether, if they've been going through something hard, send them a note, write them a letter of encouragement or just you know, a random surprise in the mail. So that's definitely one of my favorite ways to bless others.
I love that. And yes, it is so precious to be able to think, "Oh, wow, somebody took the time to write this just for me," and, like, on a
Yeah.
piece of paper.
It just feels so much more meaningful to me, at least. I'm like, they bought the paper, like they used a pen, like, I don't know. There's just something about I'm very like sentimental in that way. So
No, I love it too. Yes, there is just something really precious about knowing that somebody else's hand touched the same paper that you were touching and
yes.
sent it and folded it, thinking specifically of you, and put it in the mailbox and everything. There's just something beautiful that I think we sometimes lose in the digital age
Yeah.
of being able to have something physical that we can touch and hold sometimes and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And lastly, what are some of your favorite ways to repeat? So, what are some habits that you've implemented that have helped you to create a beautiful and balanced lifestyle? So, this can be anything from writing a to do list to setting water before your nightstand or something like that. So, you don't forget to drink water, which is something I should do and I'm trying to do. But, but yeah, what are your favorite like habits to implement or something that you're working on right now?
Yeah. Something that I'd say for about the past month now, really trying to be consistent in is each night, like I always read a book on my phone before I go to bed because I don't know, it just gets me super relaxed, ready to fall asleep. But um, what I've been trying to do is, I'll read a book, but I want the last book I read to be like um, one like passage of scripture because I want that to be the last thing on my mind as I'm falling asleep. So I've been trying to, be really consistent about that. I've been going through the book of Psalms, so just like reading the psalm and then going to bed. I think that's been really helpful for me. And yeah, as a person who loves to be super productive, something that helps me is like having a to-do list. Okay, these are priority things, these are things that I can push off, but I think it just really helps me to have a list. And I always have to be a little bit flexible about that list just with my health conditions. Like I can't always keep up with everything, but just being able to go, I can check that off the list. It just feels super like accomplishing and rewarding. So I love my to-do lists and working hard and yeah, and then ending the day with like a passage of scripture. So
I'd love to do that too. I have like this app called Dwell or something like that.
mhm.
And I put it on like an audiobook at night so that I'd listen to
Mm,
it while I'm falling asleep. But yes, it is so precious to be able to listen to scripture or to just have scripture on your mind before you go to bed. It just fills you with so, so much peace.
yes.
Um, and I feel like I don't get that with any other book. And sometimes I do listen to audiobooks like at night, but
Mhm.
there's just something about scripture that is just calming and peaceful and just fills you so, so much. So I love that. And yes, the to-do list is essential.
Mhm.
Otherwise, I feel like I'm running like a headless chicken around with like just trying to get things done and trying to
Yeah.
get things in some kind of an order because my brain feels like a mind map. And then
Oh, yeah.
it kind of gets into order once I put it on a to-do list. Like I had one for today. I was like, okay, I got to do this, this, this. Okay, we're good.
Yeah, it definitely helps you feel more organized, even though like everything is, you may feel chaotic, but at least you're doing everything in an organized fashion. So
Exactly. Yeah, and I love your idea of like prioritizing the stuff on the to-do list because that helps so much.
yeah, definitely.
So, where can our guests find you or get in touch with you if they want to learn more about your books or about your editing services or just learn a little bit more about you?
Yeah, so I'd say the best way to reach me or just to see like more of my content, whether it's about editing or my books or just learning more about me, would be on Instagram. I'm usually pretty good about checking DMs very regularly and just interacting with people. If you leave a comment on a post, like I will see it and get back to you. Um, and if specifically, if you want to know more about like my editing, you can go check that out on my website. You can also email me. I do check email regularly as well. So those are probably like the three best ways to get in touch with me, and I will get back to you. So
I love that. And listeners, I will have these links all on the show notes below so you can easily access those if you just scroll down. And so that should be really easy for you guys. Thank you so much, Caitlin, for coming on and chatting with us and sharing your heart and your story. This has been so wonderful, and it's been so lovely to be able to chat with you.
yeah, no, thank you so much. I just remember how happy I was when I saw your message. And I was like, oh my gosh, she wants me to be on her podcast. I was so like thrilled about that. So thank you for inviting me.
Oh, you're the sweetest. No, thank you for coming on. It's been so lovely to have you. I hope that you were just as inspired and encouraged as I was after that conversation. Caitlin is just amazing and so sweet. I love her so much. And she gave just such good advice. It's so practical and wise. I love it so much. If you'd like to get in contact with her, the info is going to be in the description box below. And if you would like to get her book, Our Yellow Tape Letters, or The Memories We Painted, they are also included in the description below. Thank you so much for listening, friends. And until next time, continue to live, give, and repeat. Yay! You did it! I'm giving you a lovely big virtual hug because you just finished another episode of Her Reading Life podcast. If you'd like to access all the wonderful links I mentioned in this episode, visit my website at bio.site/Shira J. Rodriguez. That's bio.site/Shira J. Rodriguez. There you can access my blog posts, resources, and so much more. Also, check out my Instagram page for more inspirational content. And join my email list for insider secrets and exclusive updates on special events. The links are in the description box below. Also, if you could take a minute and leave a review for this podcast, that would be amazing. We're able to reach so many more people because of your reviews and ratings. I can't wait to chat with you next time, friends. Keep living, giving, and repeating.